Hello everyone, welcome to another learning session. Today we are going to learn about app services. Before going to app services, tell me one thing. I assume you have all watched at least the cloud computing fundamentals classes or the recordings. What are the different cloud abstractions available? Starting with infrastructure as a service. You cannot actually learn cloud without actually learning the fundamentals, right? So you cannot actually learn any cloud, let it be AWS or Azure, without actually learning the cloud fundamentals. So that is why we have those prerequisite videos added talking about what is cloud. It is not about Azure cloud or AWS cloud or GCP or any cloud. What is cloud? And as always, if you have any doubts on any of the videos, you can always ask me anytime. So if you are part of a program such as Forum C, you have my direct contact number or WhatsApp or phone. Even otherwise, you can contact me over LinkedIn or Facebook or any channel and ask me any doubt you may have. And there is no better place than to ask doubts in a live session as this. So we have answers such as infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and we also have serverless. Infrastructure as a service is the first level of cloud abstraction, right? So what does infrastructure as a service abstract from us? Yes, physical infrastructure. The physical infrastructure is abstracted away from us so that we have to only focus on the software side of things. So infrastructure as a service abstracts away the physical infrastructure and provides us a software infrastructure in the form of storage, compute, networking. Storage, it is part of storage account, and networking, it is the virtual network on cloud, and compute, it is your virtual machines. And then the second level of abstraction is a platform as a service. The platform as a service, you basically focus on actually building your application rather than focusing on building your infrastructure. And the primary service within Azure Cloud for a platform as a service is app services. In a platform as a service, we don't have to manage the virtual machine. We don't have to manually install the virtual machine, install the patches within the virtual machine. We just have to build our applications using some technology, maybe .NET or maybe Java, and then deploy those applications. So here, the important thing to remember is that here we have to build and manage our applications. For example, if you are a Java developer, you have a framework such as Spring, Spring Boot, etc. Right? So you have to build that Spring or Spring Boot application, and then you are deploying them into your app services. So let me share my Azure portal screen. So there is a question. Can you please repeat the purpose of Azure App Services? In short, the purpose is to avoid spending time in managing the core infrastructure such as virtual machines or storage accounts or VNets, and then focus only on building your applications. Basically, making your life easier. Another question, do we need to have good knowledge with Linux or not? Do we have to be good with Linux? As we will see very shortly, you have option to work with the Linux or Windows. So app services is not just limited to any particular operating system. You can choose and decide to work with either Windows or Linux based on your requirements. But if you are going into a DevOps role after administration, then knowledge of Linux can be helpful. So you can just search for Azure App Services. So if you have attended the virtual machine session or at least saw the labs or saw the demos, you know we had to create a virtual machine and do a lot of things, right? So here we are not going to create those virtual machines, but behind the scenes, app services still use virtual machine instances. So here we have to just click on create and click on web app. So the other options like static web app or web app plus database or WordPress on app service we will see later. Okay, so let us go with the web app. And like with for most of the service, you need to select a subscription, you need to select a resource group, and then you need to give a name for the app service. If you give us a said 104, so it adds something to make this a unique URL. Or you can switch off this option like try a secure unique default host name. Instead of that, you can manually try to give a secure unique host name like AZ104 HK. Now the URL will be AZ104 HK.azurewebsites.net. In actual production, you don't worry a lot about these things because you'll be using custom domains. And then you can decide, okay, whether I'll be deploying code or container. How many of you know what a container is? Like the Docker container or so we have containers, we have container orchestration tools. So if you are new to containers, I will strongly suggest you watch the containers 101 video or attend the next live session on containers. And Kubernetes is actually a container orchestration tools. So when we have a lot of containers, somebody needs to manage them, right? So that is where tools such as Kubernetes come into picture. Okay, we have a Kubernetes 101 session also. So if you watch the containers 101 and the Kubernetes 101 session from the coding architect channel, you can get enough knowledge about containers and Kubernetes. I will share them as prerequisites before we learn about Azure Kubernetes service in future. So coming back, you can select either code or container. Container means you already have a container and then you need to deploy it. Or code means you can select a runtime. So what is a runtime? So here you can select C .NET. So within .NET currently we have a support for .NET 9, 8, 6 and ASP.NET version 4.8, version 3.5. And from Java also we have support for Java 21, 17, 11, 8. From Node we have support for Node 20, 18. From PHP we have support for 8.3, 8.2. For Python, we have 3.12, 3.11, 3.10, 3.9, and 3.8. So we have a lot of supported things here. We can select maybe .NET. See, you have option for both Linux and Windows. You can select any one region. We have selected region. So that is also something that is common for most Azure service deployments, right? So somebody was asking about Linux or Windows, right? You have the flexibility to select. And then we have something called as an app service plan. So this is one of the most important concepts within app services, the app service plan. So app service plan is a pricing tier. So you can consider it in two ways, as a pricing tier and also as a instance or virtual machine where you'll be deploying your apps. So in one single app service plan, you can deploy multiple web apps or multiple app services. So here, since we are creating, we can go to create and then give a name. Okay, my app service plan. You can explore pricing plans. So there are different parameters here, right? So you see here, like this is a hardware view where you can see, okay, if you select the free one, how much memory I will get, how much storage I'll get. If you select basic B1, then one vCPU. Similarly, if you go for premium, how much vCPUs, how much memory. And again, within premium itself, you have different sub-tiers. So you can, based on the hardware configurations you need, you can select one of these. And there is this concept of isolated, where your app services will be part of your own virtual network. Shared means you are sharing, because behind the scenes you need virtual machine, right? So shared means you are sharing the virtual machine with other app services that could be from your company or outside company. It does not matter. So you can assume that, okay, except shared other things, you will get a virtual machine with this capacity, and you will be deploying all of your apps into that virtual machine. And one thing you need to consider from an architect perspective is that you need to take care of scalability needs. If one application needs more scaling, the other application needs less scaling, then it is preferred to keep them in two separate app service plans. Apps within an app service plan, it is good to have similar scaling needs. When you learn about concepts just microservices and all of these things will be more and more clear. You also have the feature view where you can see, okay, whether auto scaling is supported. So with the free, there is no scaling at all. Shared, there is no scaling at all. With basic, you have manual scaling. With the premium, you have auto scaling with rules. Okay, and for some premium tiers, you have elastic scaling. So you have different options. And then the daily backup counts, staging slots. We will see what a staging slot is. Then you can come and compare or select based on your actual project needs, and then select the one you need. Let us go with a simple one for now. So on redundancy, it is not supported by all tiers. So if you need, then you to go with a premium one, then it is supported. Maybe let us keep it disabled, and then let's go to standard as one. You have the option to create a database if you need. You can enable or disable continuous deployment. So if you are new to this concept of DevOps, continuous deployment, like CI, CD, and all, I would suggest you watch the DevOps 101 recording at least once. You can select if you need public access or enable network injection, and then select a virtual network. We have not created any virtual networks. Monitor plus secure. So whether you want to enable application insights, those things we will definitely look into later, because we have discussions coming up on backup, monitoring, etc. So we can keep them for now, and tags as always, and then review plus create. So let us create. Okay, deployment is complete. We can go to resource. We have created a app service. So if you look into here, so this is the default domain. So we gave a particular URL rather than asking Azure to create one for us, right? So you can copy paste, and then can run on the browser. So this is a default page that is deployed by Azure Cloud. We can deploy our own application, making use of the deployment center. You can select for CI/CD whether I'll be going with the GitHub or Bitbucket or local Git or Azure repos. And also, if you are selecting GitHub, then you will have to authorize your GitHub account. Similarly, you have mechanisms for other options also. So let us not do any of those things now. And we can create something called as deployment slots. So once you click on add slot, give a name, say dev. It will create a slot called as AZ104HK, which was the name we gave, right? Hyphen dev. We can clone settings if we want. So click on add AZ104HK production, and then dev. Production is the default one where our app is currently deployed. We can actually deploy to this one also. So now, so if you see here, so this has a different URL, and so now we have two apps. So one in a slot called production, which is the URL without any extension like the dev. So similarly, we can maybe create one for QA. This is a preview tool that is available. So let us try to open. So if you have worked with Windows IaaS server or even our previous virtual machine session, you will know, right? So the www root folder. Okay, so that is where your apps are deployed. So if I come here, then I can select my website and then try to make some changes somewhere. Okay, title is Microsoft. So let us add a BT prod here. Saved automatically. The changes like message from BT prod. Okay, your web app is running and waiting for your content. So this has been updated in the dev page, right? Or the dev slot. So we are in the deployment slot dev one, right? And then we went to app service editor. So this is a main website, right? So if you go to deployment slot, so now we have made changes in the dev slot. If I come here for the dev, I have some extra things. For the prod, I do not have those extra things. And then what about the QA? I do not have those extra things. So the how deployment slots work is that you can go to deployment slots, and then you can do something called a swap. Okay, you can say, okay, my source is dev and target is QA. Okay, and then click on start swap. Behind the scenes, it will effectively swap dev and QA code. So whatever you deployed on QA now will come to dev, and whatever you deployed on dev will now come to QA. And if everything is fine, then you can again swap QA with production. So your code comes to production. You can control traffic and all, which is more on the architecture side. We will discuss later. So now, if you go to dev, now dev does not have any changes. So if we go to QA, so QA has the message from BT Prod. It is still not part of the production, right? So what we can do, okay, so assume that we have tested everything. So the production still does not have the latest message from prod code. So you can go to deployment slots and again click on swap. So this time source will be QA and target will be HK, and then click on start swap. So in real world, most of these things will be done through pipelines and all. It could be Azure pipelines or GitHub actions. But to understand the concepts, it is always better to see from UI. Okay, so swapping is complete. So now if we go to the production URL, see the message from BT Prod is finally in production. Okay, so this was the intended change for production, but first we moved it to dev, then we moved to QA, and then we moved to prod. So finally it is in prod. So all of these things will be done through pipelines and all in a DevOps based environment. But you understood the concepts, right? And then if somebody say that, okay, after your deployment, something is not working and we are not able to figure it out, then you can quickly swap it back with QA or any another environment such as a pre-prod or something. So that is about deployment slots. There are a lot of options here that you can explore. Under settings, you have environment variables. You can explore all of these things. There are a lot of features available. So you can actually add environment variables, name and value. We will be learning many of the things deeper as part of our future sessions. But today I wanted to make sure you have an idea about what is an app service, what is an app service plan, how they are related, how they fit themselves into the cloud abstraction picture. And also, so you have a scale up and scale out. So before we go into those tabs. Tell me, how many of you know what is a scale up and scale out? So we had learned these things in detail as part of our cloud fundamentals, right? So if you go into the Azure certification AZ 900, you will see that okay, module 1 is mostly about cloud fundamentals that are not specific to Azure cloud, because Azure also recognizes the fact that okay, without knowing about cloud in general, you cannot actually work with cloud. So there are two primary divisions of scaling as we learned in the cloud fundamentals. They are vertical scaling and horizontal scaling. Vertical scaling means you are improving your existing system, like upgrading the RAM or CPU or storage. All of these comes under vertical scaling. It could be upgrading or reducing. So if you are adding things, then it is scale up, and if you are removing things, it will be scale down. Similarly, horizontal scaling means you are adding more and more instances, or you are adding more and more machines. So adding more and more machines of same capability is called as horizontal scaling. So the same concepts are there for virtual machines also, right? There for the horizontal scaling, we use something called as virtual machine scale set. Vertical scaling means you are just upgrading your machine. In case of virtual machines, it means changing the size. And in case of app services, it means changing the app service plan, because your instance is decided based on the app service plan, right? So if you go to scale up, you have option to select a different app service plan. So currently we are in standard S1. Maybe if you want to go to this one and select, we can do it. Okay, so that is about scale up and scale down or vertical scaling. Scale out or horizontal scaling or scale in. So scale out means adding more machines. Scaling means removing machines. So here you can configure okay, manual scale out or automatic. So why automatic is grayed out? Because we selected a app service plan that does not support automatic, right? So what if the client needs automatic scaling, or what if we need automatic scaling for our application? Then we need to do a scale up. So we need to go to app service plan. So we need to go to the scale up tab, upgrade to something that supports. So you can go to the features. Okay, auto scale. Where is it supported? Okay, this is supported here. Then you can click on select, upgrade. Okay, the plan, my app serve plan was uploaded successfully. Now go to scale out. Then now we have automated scale out, and then we can select factors such as a maximum burst. Okay, between 1 and 30, always ready instances, enforce a scale out limit. Okay, maximum scale limit. So all of these things you can configure. So when you say manual, so this instance count behind the scenes, these are virtual machines, right? But you don't have to take care of it. It is automatically taken care for you. Scale up means vertical scaling, and scale out means horizontal scaling. Clear until now? So there are a lot of other features also available with app services that we will explore later. My goal was to make sure you have some idea about what app services are and where does they fit into the bigger picture of cloud abstractions. So let us, I am just selecting something. Okay, and code. If I am selecting Java 21, then again I can select okay, what is the web server stack? Okay, is it an embedded web server or a Apache Tomcat server? All of these things I can configure, and then Azure will install all of those things for me. I don't have to install them manually. Okay, so that is platform as a service. Everything is abstracted away. You can say what you need, whether you need a Linux OS or Windows OS. whether you need a Java embedded web server or Tomcat, all of these things you can actually mention, and rest will be taken care by your cloud provider, in this case, Azure Cloud. So that is platform as a service for you. We will learn definitely more about app services as part of our program. But have you got the idea of Azure App Services, scale up, scale down, and deployment slots? To understand the value of pass, so if you go here, so now we have deployment slots, right? We have just with a few clicks, we have set up these things, right? So just imagine if you are using virtual machines, how will you set up these things? So you'll need to have different virtual machines. You need to do manual deployment, then deploying back to the old one. So a lot of things you'll have to do either manually or with pipelines and all, right? But here, lot of things are done behind the scenes by Azure Cloud. You just have to use those features. So many of the things are abstracted away from you. So a lot of other features are there that we will learn later. But I hope you understood the fundamentals of Azure App Services. Good. Whoever missed the cloud fundamentals, thinking it is not Azure Cloud, should definitely go back and watch them as much as possible, because you need to understand what is cloud before learning Azure Cloud or AWS Cloud or any cloud. Then, if you have any doubts, just note down and come and ask me. So, assuming nobody has any doubts with respect to what we have learned, so let us go back and then you can ask me any doubts you have.
So, the question is like when to choose app services over a virtual machine, because we don't have much control over the app services, right? And in corporates, mostly everything is on virtual machine. So when to choose this one?
I've been working with Azure Cloud in corporates. I have seen very, very less number of people actually using virtual machines directly these days. Now everybody are moving towards platform as a service or even serverless, where you do not have to manage a lot of things, because companies do not want to manage the infrastructure. They want to build applications faster. Microsoft or Amazon have years of experience working with a lot of clients to make sure, okay, their infrastructure is managed in a better way.
I saw this most of the banks, because I work for one bank, so they are very conservative of using, like they don't want to give too much control to the other cloud providers in terms of accessing some customer centric application. So they are okay to use some of the application which is not too much of customer centric. So they are okay with it. But when it comes to a customer centric application, they don't want to go out of their own private space.
So in those cases, people go for containers. If you have a container-based architecture, you can easily switch from one cloud to another cloud, right?
Yeah.
Every cloud provider supports Docker or Kubernetes and all of those things. So manually managing virtual machines is not something that you see a lot today. So tell me one thing, which is more costlier? If you look into pricing within Azure portal or Azure pricing calculator, which is more costlier, a virtual machine or an app service?
So obviously VM.
Which one is
Virtual.
more costlier? Which one is more costlier if you look into your pricing calculator or portal, app service or virtual machine?
App
App service
uh,
is more
app service.
costly.
Yeah, it is always going to be a app service, because Microsoft has put that extra effort to build their service on top of virtual machines. So they need to get the money, right? For running and managing an application, which is more costlier, and an application deployed on virtual machine or an application deployed on app service?
Yeah, let
We can.
me share my one of the experience, sir. Like in one of the case where I work, especially on the application side, like I created VM, like Azure VM, and I created like Active Directory IaaS, like that was some kind of, although like infrastructure was I set up as a VM, as a web server, but I have to do manually. But using web app is like purely straightforward and fast. But I think the web app was service was expensive, but it was pretty much straightforward, right? I just deploy the app, web app, and then yeah, there were two scenarios. But web apps is something like, maybe if I'm not wrong, it's costlier,
Okay,
but it's
so
a platform, as a service.
okay, we defined the fact that okay, web apps like app services from a pricing calculator or Azure portal perspective is definitely costlier. For running and managing an application, which is more costlier, app service or virtual machines. I will add one more point to Sharat's answer shortly, but if I say that, others will know the answer.
App
Okay.
app machine.
Okay. So you did this for your company or for your personal purpose.
Yeah, it's for actually the company. Yeah.
Okay. So the company is paying you salary, right?
Yeah.
So one very important thing about abstractions or AI or any of the similar improvements in IT is that software is always cheaper than people. If you need to run a virtual machine, every hour that you work on a virtual machine or an app service is built by your company. Company is paying you. So that is why people are losing jobs with respect to AI, right? AI can do more things for less amount of money than you give for a developer. When considering the people cost for managing your application, app services are definitely less costlier than virtual machines. With all the cybersecurity attacks around the world, hardening a system itself is a great task. Assuming there are no more doubts or queries, let us wind up and see you all in next live session. Bye bye for now and see you all in next class.
Thank you.